need to do some maintenance for your 2015 through 2020 F-150 suspension, excluding the Raptor models, the Supreme front lower control arm and ball joint assembly for the passenger side is a great choice to consider for the job. Now, this is a solid solution to tightening up your ride for better handling with a direct replacement if you have noticed that your lower control arm, ball joints, or bushings are worse for wear and causing some bad drivability symptoms. Now, this is a mid-level replacement, being a step up from an OE style replacement choice, but doesn't go overboard in price. If you're not looking for a premium option, you're just looking for some reliable performance to refresh the feel of your truck. Now, lower control arm, ball joints, and bushings don't last forever, and when they start to go, they can cause some slop in your steering and just run down your drivability, especially if you've already modified your suspension or you have oversized tires that are causing that extra rotational mass to wear on your movable component. Now, this system offers a big improvement in how the front end handling feels, especially if your current control arm has a bad joint or is worn down on the bushing side, resulting in a very comfortable ride on the road again and confidence when you do take your truck off-road. Now, the biggest feature here is the OE-like fitment with a more durable construction with longer lasting performance compared to the OE ball joint thanks to the sintered bearings on the inside and the addition of a 90-degree SAE grease fitting so you can maintain this and enjoy it for longer. Now, this is made of a thick steel material, being incredibly durable and able to withstand day-to-day and off-road abuse. The control arm is covered in a black powder coat finish to prevent any rusting, which is good for road debris and being subjected to the elements often, especially if you are in a harsher climate. It also comes with the ball joint and the rubber bushings pre-installed and pre-pressed into the system, in addition to the hardware needed, which is that grease fitting that I mentioned, along with a nylon lock nut. Now, this comes in at about $350, and again, it is right in the middle of the road for price and performance, and we do also have the driver's side available if you need both sides. Now, they definitely have an upgraded construction, which allows for you to be able to abuse these for longer without having to worry about them and gives you the option to service them compared to some other more entry-level choices that don't come with the grease fitting. Now, this kit also doesn't go overboard with some of the more higher performance features that other premium choices have. So if you're looking to keep the price mild, you want a middle ground option that's going to give you some better performance but not completely break the bank, this is a great option to consider. Now, install is a 2 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter. I would recommend some mechanical experience for the job and about 3 hours to get it done, depending on your tools and setup. I also recommend an alignment after installation just to maintain proper performance and proper tire wear. Now, at this point, I'm going to hand it over to one of our installers. They're going to show you a detailed breakdown on how you can get this into your truck. So that wraps it up for what I have to say. Let's go ahead and get into the install.
For this install, you will need an impact, a hammer, a mallet, a grease gun, a 3/8 inch adapter if necessary, 18, 21, and 27 millimeter sockets, a 3/8 wrench, 8, 18, and 27 millimeters wrenches. Also not shown here is a paint pen. What's up, guys? Today we're going to be doing a lower control arm on our F-150, so let's get started. Alrighty, guys, so we've got the truck in the air, we've got the wheels off, so we can begin removing our control arm. Now, one thing I want to point out is we do have a drop brace on ours because it is lifted 6 inches, so the brackets might look a little different. However, everything is exactly the same as if you were doing it from the factory mounts. It's just lower on our brace. So the first thing we're going to do is remove our 2 lower strut nuts and our sway bar end link nut from our control arm. So we got our 18 mil socket and we'll pop all 3 of those off. Sometimes you don't get so lucky with this one, so what we're going to have to do is hold on to the stud while we get this out. Alright, so if your nut does just cause your end link to start spinning, what you can do is grab an 8 millimeter wrench and an 18 millimeter wrench. Get that on the stud and the nut. Now, our impact did kind of break this loose. You just have to get it going. Like that. Until it gets loose enough to take it off. Next, we're going to remove our 21 millimeter nut for our lower ball joint. So we've got our 21 mil socket. We're going to pop this off. So the next thing we need to do is separate our ball joint from its seat on the knuckle. So what we're going to do is put our nut back on a couple threads, just like so. We're going to grab our hammer, give a few taps to our knuckle. That should unseat it. Alright guys, so if you're having problems unseating your ball joint, what you're going to do is remove the bolts from the control arm mount itself. So doing this at home, as well as here, you'll need a 27 millimeter wrench and a 27 millimeter socket. Now one thing you do want to do is mark out where your camber adjusters are, because you want it to get as close as possible back to its original measurement so you can get it to an alignment shop, even though you will need an alignment after replacing this. Now we're going to mark all of our camber adjusters. Now we're using a paint pen. You can also use black permanent marker, whatever you have on hand. But you want to make sure to mark all four, both your inners and your outers. I like to do it on the retainers. It's easier to see. Now we're going to tap our mounting bolts out with a soft mallet. Want to make sure to catch your camber plate and keep these with the bolts that they came off of, so make it life a lot easier. We'll do the same thing for this side. You want to be careful because your control arm is going to drop. May have to push up on the other side. Now one thing to point out is, again, because of the way our truck is lifted, we did have to unbolt our sway bar from its mount to access our bolt fully. Doing this at home, if you're on stock suspension, you should not have to do this. We'll just be able to pull this back. Now once we have our bolt out, we can pull our arm down. All right, so as we hoped, in the process of moving our control arm down, as you can see, we've got it out of the seat for the lower studs. It did unseat the ball joint because it relieved the just amount of tension. So what we're gonna do is pick this up. Now you do have to be careful of your axle boot. You kind of have to work this out. It's a little bit weird. All right guys, so we're ready to put in our new control arm. The first thing we're going to do is grab our grease fitting. We're just going to screw this into our ball joint for now. We'll get it pointed and tightened down once we get it in place. Just want to make sure it's a lot easier to get it started while it's down here. Okay. All right, so now that we have our grease fitting in, we're going to line our ball joint up, get this back in place. Push that in. Again, just like with taking it out, you're going to have to maneuver it. We'll get our supplied nut in place. All right, so our next step is going to be to line up our lower mounting studs for our strut back into our new control arm. So you will need to kind of push this around a little bit. You want to work it up. Now this angle is going to be a little bit stiff. It should go back through. You also want to make sure the sway bar end link lines back up. Now we're going to get our lower control arm mounting bolts back in place. Now this might be a little bit tough. Do your best to line these up as best as possible. Get your first one started, then we'll get our second one started, so that way they'll be even and we can get them back in. Now that we've got both of our bolts in, we're going to reinstall our camber plates in the rear. Get our nuts back in place. And you want to do the same thing for the other side. Now we're going to use our 27mm wrench to line up our marks on our bolt head. So, and we'll hold that in place and snug our nut down. We'll make sure this lines up as well. And we'll do the same thing for the back side. Now we'll tighten down our ball joint nut with our 21mm socket. Next we'll get our sway bar end link nut, as well as our 2 lower strut nuts back on. Once you got all these on, you can come back in with your 18mm socket and tighten all these down. All right, so now that we've got everything tightened down, we're gonna tighten down our grease fitting. Now you want this to be in an accessible location, so you can use your 3/8 wrench. You can come from either side. Once we got that tightened down, we can come in with our grease gun and grease our ball joint. So now we'll get our grease gun onto our fitting. So that locks on. And you want to pump it till it fills up. Now the boot does have a small weep hole, so you can't over grease it. And again, you just want to pump it till it fills. Now once you've got this completely installed, you want to follow the manufacturer recommendations for torquing your hardware, and also definitely get an alignment after completing this install. Alrighty folks, that about wraps up our review and install of our Supreme front lower control arm and ball joint assembly for the passenger side of your 15 to 20 F-150, excluding the Raptor. Thanks for watching, and as always, for everything F-150, keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.